To Ritu Bhagat for creating another baby. This is a baby. Whenever you write a book, it's like another giving birth to a baby. And I'm so happy and rather lucky to be part of this book. I never knew why Ritu's been coming to my office so regularly and making me speak few things unnecessary. But I came to know about it much later that she was trying to record anything and everything what I was trying to talk to her during those 5, 6, 7 meetings. And now this evening I got a shock of my life when I saw that I am a part of the book. Thank you, Ritu, for making me part of this book. I'm very happy. A very exclusive, a very extraordinary book, and probably one of its first of its kind in the country. I have never ever seen a book like this where so many things are actually being brought under two covers. And the way she has expressed, the way she has managed, the way she has worked for this book, I think is commendable, and she deserves a huge round of applause for this book. The second appreciation she needs, because in this age of internet when most of the people are trying to be only or all the time on net and they are hesitant even for buying the books, trust me, I admire your guts, I admire your willingness that you have made it a point that this book should be out. I know that you've been trying to write a book from a long time, and I'm recollecting 2 lines for you कि रास्तों की दिलकशी अपनी जगह चलने वालों की भी मर्जी चाहिए, यूं तो महफिल में हम पढ़ते रहे सुनने वालों की भी मर्जी चाहिए, लाख आंसू इश्क भी रोए तो क्या आसमानों की भी मर्जी चाहिए. The fact is that if you really want something to come up, something to be successful, there's a lot of willingness what you require actually. And trust me, only willingness will never take you or get you a success. But second very important thing is that every willingness has to be backed and supported by a lot of ability. And ability comes from confidence. And confidence comes from knowledge. And knowledge comes from education. And trust my word, this book is definitely going to be a part of Indian education system. This is so well written, and this contains so much to actually go through. And second line says कि यूं तो महफिल में हम पढ़ते रहे सुनने वालों की भी मर्जी चाहिए. If you are in any part of mass communication, whether it's a print, radio, television, cinema or new media, the best part is that yes, you need to have a lot of research what masses are looking for, and once you have done your research, all that has to go back to the masses so that they should love that. And I think she has very well obeyed the second line. She has researched a lot, and all that what she has put in back into the book is you're going to love it. This is so well written, and this book is definitely meant for each and everyone who is present here. And last but not the least, कि लाख आंसू इश्क भी रोए तो क्या आसमानों की भी मर्जी चाहिए. I know that for the success of anything and everything, you need blessings of Almighty, and person who's so good, who's so human, who's so kind, so sympathetic, and she's so passionate about her work, I'm sure she's going to get lots and lots of blessings from Almighty today. All my best wishes, and wish you all the success. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Marva, for speaking so passionately about Rituji's passion. I think we're all impassioned with that speech. Thank you so much. I'd like to call on stage Ms. Salma Sultan, a Doordarshan news reader, director, and most recently, the founder of Sari Sanskrit. I'd like to request Saru Sharma to come on stage to please present the memento to you.
Distinguished panelists and the beautiful audience, there are so many here. First of all, thank you so much, Ritu Bhagat, for making me a part of your big day. I want to congratulate you and Rupa Publication for bringing out this unique book. I think millions of words have been written, but what makes them different and unique is the fact that somebody sees a new possibility, a new dimension, and Ritu Bhagat saw that. She chose the subject of cinema, and she intermingled the stories which relate to her life, especially cinema, and she's woven beautiful stories and anecdotes which impact the readers. I've seen her struggle, I've seen her journey, I've seen her burning passion, her resilience, and I can dedicate this shade to her. कि हम खुद तराशते हैं मंजिल के संगे राह. We carve out our own path of success. हम खुद तराशते हैं मंजिल के संगे राह. हम वो नहीं हैं जिनको ज़माना बना गया. So I congratulate you, Ritu Bhagat, and publications, and I'm sure that your book will get a great response. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Salma Sultanji. Beautiful words from a beautiful lady. Now I'd like to invite on stage Ms. Shibani Kashyap, who is a renowned Bollywood and indie pop singer, a composer and live performer. Please welcome her on stage. I'd also like to call on stage Vineet Malhotra, who is a senior journalist with over 2 decades of experience in the mainstream media. He happens to be the executive editor and the primetime debate show host for NewsX, the consulting editor and a primetime.
इनका कपड़ा नहीं उठते हुए देना दोबारा.
Who is a renowned Bollywood and indie pop singer. I'm sure many of you have seen her videos on MTV and Channel V. She is very well known for her super hit songs like Ho Gayi Hai Mohabbat. I was a huge fan, by the way. And Sachna, Abhija, Zinda Hu Main, Sonia, and many more songs. Her recent songs have also been very popular and have already crossed millions of views. She recently collaborated with the Grammy Award-winning composer Ricky Cage for a world peace anthem. She is the recipient of many awards such as the Dada Saheb Phalke Award, the Stardust Award, the Channel V Award, and many more. She has performed at the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games in Delhi back in 2010 and has recently performed at the 75th year of Indian Independence Day celebrations in New York, Michigan, and Dallas in 2022. She is a very popular live performer. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Shibani Kashyap. Now I'd like to introduce to you Suhail Mathur. He is an award-winning and best-selling author. He has authored The Bhairav Putras and the mythology fantasy The Hunt for Rama's Bow. He's a TEDx speaker and is one of the country's premier literary agents via his agency, The Bookmakers, through which he has successfully sold more than over 1,075 books. Hopefully my book will be on that list soon. He has sold several books to screen deals and has worked with several actors, cricketers and best-selling authors, apart from having written and worked on web series, TV shows and animated series. So just to give you an idea, many of you would have seen the recent movie, Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. That was a book deal signed by Suhail and then sold to be converted into a screen movie. So that's Suhail. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause, please. I would next like to introduce the author, Ritu Soni Bhagat. She has an extensive experience of teaching the English language and literature to secondary and senior secondary students at DPS Holy Child and DAV. She has done her PG diploma in broadcasting arts from YWCA and has presented various TV and radio programs for Delhi Doordarshan and AIR. She is associated with the International Chamber of Media and Entertainment ICME, Secretary, Delhi State for National Child and Women Development Council, and she is also a mentor for the Stanford Seed Program. Her passion for education, media, and the unique hobby of teaching idioms and proverbs to her students encouraged her to come up with this unique book called Hinglish, which is a combination of education and entertainment. It's an attempt to teach English through the prism of Hindi films. It is for everyone who loves idioms, proverbs, and Bollywood, the perfect combination for our country, isn't it? So, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a huge round of applause for Ritu. The applause needs to be a little louder. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Vineet, last but not the least. He is a senior journalist with over 2 decades of experience in the mainstream media. He started out with sports, hosting the first season of the IPL, the Commonwealth Games, the Olympics, and the ICC World Cup in 2011, 2015, and 2019. He later joined Times Now, Z News, and Tiranga TV as the executive editor and primetime debate show host. Currently, he is the consulting editor and primetime debate show host for NewsX. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause. Louder, guys. Yeah, I think you're waiting for the high tea. Okay. I'll make you all give me the applause after that. Alright, so over to you, Vinny.
Good afternoon, everyone. Usually when I'm moderating or anchoring, the space is not so silent. You know, there's a director barking in my ears, and there are guests from across political spectrums who are trying to patronize me. But this is a welcome change. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Leher. Leher is a great girl. I'm only here because of her, and of course, I liked your book. I couldn't finish the whole thing because I received it only yesterday. But congratulations on this book. I think what really is important here is that you have thought out of the box, and most of us are still trying to navigate coming out of that box, like they say in the Kuwe ka Mendak. So organically, the question that comes to everyone's mind, comes to my mind as well, is the construction of the title. There is a movie which has a similar title. Sridevi starred in it. God bless her soul. Me and Sri were just talking about it. What was the inspiration behind this title? Did you want something catchy? Because the title itself could be made into a Bollywood movie. Please elaborate on that. Rituji.
Good evening, everyone. Actually, when I thought of the movie was English, and the title is English. So my son did not like it at all because he said Hinglish is the mixture of Hindi and English language. But I was very clear that this would be my title because I have tried to teach English language through Hindi movies. So that's why it's English.
That's very good actually. That's excellent. It also brings in about some sort of a recall, which is important for selling a book. So I would agree. Shivani, you are a part of the industry, and this book is also a leaflet out of that industry. How important is this method, and how crucial and pivotal is this method when it comes to people grabbing concepts through Hindi movies and improving upon their English?
Hi, good afternoon everybody, and a big congratulations to Ritu Bhagat for this very catchy title book. I agree with that. English. So I think Bollywood runs in our blood. I think all of us we grow up listening to Bollywood music, and especially music and dance plays a very cardinal role. Like it strikes a chord, as you mentioned in your idioms there, instantly with the audience to actually promote the film or to basically amplify the moods, as you've written in your chapter in the book. So I got to read my favorite chapter of the book called Music and Dance, and I completely related to it. And I was like, this is such an amazing way to actually communicate the language English through idioms and through anecdotes. So I think what people relate, if you try to explain a phrase to them, like for instance, I myself didn't know that phrase that you wrote about Raj Kapoor, that he does movies with tent pole movies, right? I was like,
Interesting stories.
I said, what is tent pole movies? Yeah, so when I read the chapter, I understood, and then you also elucidated about it that it means somebody who can anticipate a successful movie and therefore work on it, and he knows the ropes. So Raj Kapoor knows the ropes, and how when he started making his film Bobby to launch his son Rishi Kapoor, he actually put his heart and soul, he put his best foot forward, and he got a singer who was a debut singer, who was a fresh
You
voice.
have really read it.
I read it because to read gaya and I completely connected.
Are you talking
with
about
it.
Narendra Chanchal?
No.
He also sang.
Shailendra Singh was the one who actually was the voice of Raja.
Shaya to
The
nahi.
captain. Yeah. So the idioms used to describe this whole anecdote, this whole situation, actually are very interesting, and that's how you understand the meaning of these idioms. Because if you just tell people, okay, what does strike a chord mean? Batao bachcho, strike a chord ka matlab kya hota hai? So instead of saying that this film, it strikes a chord, or music and dance strikes a chord with the audience instantly. So it's the feeling and the emotion which comes. I think there's energy in her book. There's energy, there is emotion in the book, and there's a lot of passion which comes across because these idioms are explained and expressed through situations, stories. There's a narrative happening there. Yeah, and that's what is the most the USP of this book. So anybody will be able to understand English and English idioms through these stories. So I think it's a fantastic thing that you've done. It's a cutting edge thing you've done, out of the box and cutting edge. So big hand for you, Rituji. Really nice. I've been just able to read one chapter, but I'm looking forward to finishing the book, and it's very informative also, and informative not in a boring sort of a way, but very entertaining. So I love it.
Alright, wonderful. Rituji, go ahead.
She's complimenting me. Let her compliment me.
Okay, there's an idiom which says that never judge a book by its cover. But I think we have somebody on stage who gets paid for that. Sohail Mathur, right? So that doesn't apply to you. In context of coming across books that have some sort of an impression, profound impression on people, where do you think English stands? And as a literary agent, what went through your mind when you heard about this first? Because you are not representing Ritu. This came to you. You came to the situation as a reader, not as somebody who was a part of this concept. So how did you look at it? Were you able to see it vicariously?
Thank you so much, Vineet, for the question. It feels wonderful to be a part of this. I was going to say August gathering till I realized I'm 4 days too late. But nonetheless, I think the book is very different and unique, and the manner in which things have been written, as Shivani was saying, really strike a chord. And I just to give you an example, to carry forward what she was mentioning. I was doing a book with Mr. W.E. Raman, who is former India opener and the coach of India's women's cricket team. And that book was also published by Rupa. While we were working on that book, he told me that during the 92-93 tour of England, there was an occasion where Sachin Tendulkar scored 93 and got out. So when he came back to the pavilion, to the dressing room rather, Azharuddin and Kapil Dev, went to congratulate him. But Sachin was very distraught. He was very distraught. So both of them couldn't understand why. So they said, why are you so disappointed? You scored 93. So he said, because the situation the team is in demanded me to score 150. So what does that teach us? That teaches us two things. Number one, the team goal is always more important than the individual goal. And secondly, if you want to succeed in life, then you have to constantly better yourself.
I hope Virat and Rohit are listening to you.
I hope so too. Shubman Gill as well. But so the point is that if I was hearing this, in a random lecture, I'd probably forget it. But because there's a Sachin Tendulkar attached to it, I'll not forget. I was at a book launch where I was sitting with a spiritual guru, and he told me that when Lord Hanuman went to get the Sanjeevani booty, he was challenged by Shani Dev for a duel. So what Hanumanji did was that he tied Shani Dev to a mountain with the help of his tail and went to get the Sanjeevani booty. Now, what does this teach us? This teaches us that in the larger scheme of things, there are going to be several minor impediments that are going to come your way. But intelligent is that person who finishes those tasks at the earliest so that they can achieve their goal. So, now again, because there is Lord Hanuman, nobody will forget. Which is why, these are one or two examples. But to write an entire book, with a particular theme in place, which is Bollywood in this case, I think is amazing. Right. And I'd just like to say that, Rupa Publications has tasted humongous success with one Bhagat. It's time now that another Bhagat will That's a good one.
In fact, that also leads me to my follow-up question, Rituji. Sohail said that you can borrow excerpts from here and there and make a chapter or two about it. How did you go about, actually constructing and writing and, innovating this book, considering that there is such a plethora of movies to choose from? What was the selection procedure like?
Thanks for this question. Yes, it is really a very well-researched book. It is based on newspaper and education theme, and a lot of people have used this thing, but nobody has tried in this manner to make it so entertaining, because there was no dots to be connected. Even I didn't know how this book will turn up. Initially it was for the vocabulary, but how it turned up, and also in a very organic way. It turned out to be a book of idioms and phrases plus proverbs, and proverbs, they give us so much of wisdom in it, and I really focused on that it should have no gossips related with film world, because film world, that also gives us such a good gift of singers, songs, so much we owe to them. So that was my purpose. All stories, you will see, they are from the newspaper, which you just, I'll give you an example. I just read about Arshad Varsi, one line, that he said we should not show off, and he would not purchase at any cost a very luxurious or expensive car, but he would spend his money on property. And I really like this idea, because I also feel if one has excess amount of money, one should serve the society well. So this was the idea, and how I wrote it. Well, with just this line, I wrote in that those who are the thing which is of glass has to glitter more, because it has to show more of its worth. So this way, whole paragraph was woven. Lot of brainstorming, lot of imagination has been used. Every paragraph you will see how much of work has gone into it. And now I know why Amish Tripathi said that to write on one page, he needs to read thousands of pages, and in fact I had to think about thousands of idioms and proverbs to write on one paragraph.
Very well done, very good. Round of applause. And again, connecting with what you just said, Shubhani, it's also important to understand that I'm sure everybody in this room, everybody we meet on a regular basis, knows a thing or two, or more than that, about Bollywood. And do you think that knowledge and that love, that endearment for Bollywood actually will benefit a lot more when they get into this book? Because it's all about the tradition and the culture they grew up with, and this is nothing but an amalgamation of that culture that we are a part of through Bollywood.
Absolutely spot on. I think I'm going to speak in your idioms and phrases. I've become so inspired. I think you have a cutting edge thing, because everybody loves Bollywood, not just in India, Vineet. But I think I was recently in Uzbekistan for 5 concerts, and you won't believe it, they love Bollywood so much. They all know our songs. Like Jimmy Jimmy is their anthem, Avara Ho is their anthem. I mean, it was crazy when I was singing all the Mithunda song and the Raj Kapoor songs. They were the ones who were singing like totally in unison, in chorus. It was fantastic to see the fervor and the love and the passion for Bollywood, not just in India but abroad as well. So I think your book will do very well abroad also. So, well, coming back to yes, people are very, very. I think we we just light up when we talk about, yeah, let's go and watch a film. On a Sunday when you want to go and watch a movie, it somehow just lights you up, doesn't it? Because Bollywood does have that power. It transports you into a world of fantasy. It takes you, it makes you travel. And it makes you think. You come back home with a take back, a thought or a message, or something, you discover something about even yourself. You relate to things. I watched Rocky or Rani recently, and I think it's a musical treat, and the whole story is so enrapturing and so entertaining. You come back really, really refreshed. So when you read a book like this, English, with Bollywood being I would say the major part of it, people will definitely take to it very easily, because we have grown up. It is in our DNA. It is in our ethos. So Bollywood is in our system, right? And when I was a little girl, I wanted to become a singer, and then of course I went to the bigger picture. I sang in Bollywood. I think that's when people started saying, "Acha, she's Bollywood singer, hai," you know. So when you are a Bollywood singer, you're part of Bollywood. You really are something. You feel that you have arrived. It is an achievement. So anything to do with Bollywood, especially in this book, when you're trying to, teach people English idioms, this will definitely work very easily. It just will, be absorbed. People will be ready to absorb it.
Great answer. Thank you for that, Shivani. So, let's also talk about the medium now. By medium, I mean the English language. Do you think that focus of the current reader at this point in time is majorly drifting away from reading Hindi and improving their English and being able to talk in English, being able to communicate and sort of corporatize their image in English, is also a reason why this book is very, very important, because there are some people who want to be able to grasp English concepts, but they do not have the right examples. This is making their life easier.
Absolutely. I think if you're starting off with something, you have to start off gradually, step by step. So you start off with something easy, and which is precisely what we were discussing, that how seamlessly she has brought out those examples. I think as far as the market, it's not only the people who want to read, since the publishing trade also recognizes what the current scenario of the market is. They're also up on this. So if you look at it in the Indian commercial space, there are a vast majority of English language publishers in comparison to the Hindi publishers in the commercial domain, at least, and that is because they feel that there is greater readership, of those. But now what is also happening, Vineet, is that a lot of translations are taking place, because we all need to understand that, India has a rich history of stories and storytellers across all languages. I mean, English only came with the advent of the British, but all the other languages were flourishing, even before. And those are the things that, we also as people from the trade try to bring about. So, I mean, I'm currently doing a book which is just released recently, also as luck would have it with Rupa. It is about the world's first serial killer. The world's first serial killer was actually from India, and it wasn't a man, it was a lady. So that's one book that we've done. The cop who actually caught her, he used to write in a journal.
I hope you're not talking about TV serials.
No, no TV serials for sure. The cop who caught her used to write a journal, and he had a case diary of 100 cases. So we've taken out 15 of those and made it available to the present generation, because the point is that a story, as I always say, people from the literary industry have the responsibility, and the greatest gift that they can give is the gift of a story. So if you don't translate it and bring it out in the local language, to a new set of readers from a new generation, I think you're losing out on that. So I think what this has done is it makes it very easy. I wish that such kind of books were there since much earlier, because then this process would have become a lot easier. But I think we have to start off somewhere, and sooner than later. And I think Rituji has done a fantastic job. As you can see, it's a very voluminous book, right? So you can get daunted by the size, but I just request everyone to open the pages, and the moment you open it, you will be all at ease.
All right. Very interesting. interesting thing that I also observed in your book was, Rituji, that you have dedicated very religiously an entire chapter on Mr. Anil Kapoor. Any reason why? I mean, he's a great actor, he's been a part of our childhood, but what's your connection with Anil Kapoor that you felt like dedicating an entire chapter on him?
I'm very, in the opening only, I have mentioned that I am a die-hard fan of him. So obviously I have seen all his movies.
And his family members as well.
But when I became his friend, I didn't know about his relationship with Sandeepji. Of course, that is there. So, but like any other chapter, this is also through idioms and wisdom. Proverbs are there, and so much of profound knowledge is also there. When I have mentioned all his stories, and Pukar story, how the entire story has been written down in idioms, coming from Pukar, Slumdog Millionaire, to his other movies also. Then coming to the latest movies like AK versus AK, where I have written down so many idioms, fly on the wall, and then coming to the latest Thar. And how I've expressed it, like literally he is living in desert, Thar is desert, Anil Kapoor is living there, and so he has no access to materialistic things. Those things have also been written through proverbs only, and so the life becomes very dull there because you cannot enjoy the common facilities there. And then figuratively how I have shown that his heart dries up. So the phrase dry up is used. He is not able to enjoy his professional life because all his labor is going unrewarded. So when you read it, you will see how those idioms and proverbs have been used. And this is how this, and nobody has ever done the story of any film star like this, which has come out. I really feel, as a writer also, I feel very happy to see the result of it.
Very well said, ma'am. Very well said. It's beautiful, how Shivani, our culture is actually defined by Bollywood movies. In the 70s, during the emergency, the character of Vijay was created for Amitabh Bachchan because he represented that unemployed, frustrated youth, who had lots to pick on with the government. In the 90s, India went towards liberalization. Everybody forgot what love and romance was. They brought in Shah Rukh Khan. 2000s, everything went to the dumpster. But nevertheless, Hindi movies have always, capitalized on our culture as well as our tradition. But now we're going gung over OTT, and most of the people who want to watch Hindi cinema also on OTT, they prefer English as the language, at least to some extent. Do you think this book also resonates with such people?
Yeah, I think Ritu has really got the pulse of not just the masses but also the OTT audience, because I don't think the masses are yet hooked onto OTT so much. But I think the OTT audience definitely suddenly relates and kind of pulsates with all the English phrases coming in. Really, definitely relate to your book.
They will lap it up.
They will lap it up. So that's why I say they will lap it up. Another idiom, another phrase coming your way. My favorite is, of course, if music be the food of love, play on. It has always been my favorite. Thank you for using that in your book.
That's Shakespeare.
That's by Shakespeare, yeah. But she's, she's put sayings by very, very famous people in that. And some of them are very, very, very beautiful and very thoughtful. And I'm glad that you've used it to make you think and reflect, and especially for music. That's a tribute to musicians like us. You really paid a tribute by the chapter Music and Dance. I think I would really recommend people to just dive into that chapter as well.
You should have had a chapter on journalists as well.
That's only the missing.
Maybe the next book you can call it Dance Once and have a chapter on journalism. Nevertheless, when you were articulating my response to my question, Shivani, I think came to my mind today that most of them are adaptations of books. But यहाँ पर गंगा उल्टी है, right? Movies have been used to create a book. You are a literary agent as well, you're an author as well. You represent a number of authors throughout the country. You represent me also. My book is also still a work in progress. It's been 2 years only. I wanted to ask you, had you learnt about this concept, and had Rituji met you a little earlier, would you have done something differently? Would you have, done the way the book has been, creatively presented, the way it's been marketed? And this is no reflection on how brilliantly Leher has produced this event. Is she here? She's out. Good. You can answer now.
No, I think if it's not broken, you don't need to fix it. But that's my honest response. And I always, as a person, also I'm very fair and honest. So I always try to see if I can add value to a particular project. Because only if you can add value to a project, should you be there. Otherwise, there's no big point. But what I really liked, was, and the fact is that, I was just having a chat with a publisher a couple of weeks ago. And, one of the members of their editorial team was participating in a book launch, which was organized by a different publishing house. So, the gentleman was telling me that, I'm allowing my team member to go there, but do you think it's right that, so-and-so is going for another book launch, by another publisher? And I also happened to have this conversation with that person very seamlessly without having told that person, of my other conversation. And he said that, I'm going, so this gentleman said that I'm going for, this book launch, and there have been so many people who've actually complimented me that, in this cutthroat literary industry where, people want to put their product on top and not the others, there is actually somebody who's going for the love of literature and, promoting it. So when I heard that, I thought that was a very interesting point as well. So I think I just took a leaf out of that book and came here because if there is good literature, people from the literary fraternity must support it. And I think we indirectly in various ways are doing it. As you mentioned, you're moderating the event. Leher is also our author, and she has put this up. I'm here. In fact, the chapter that I read, about the readers also mentions Manisha Koirala's book on cancer. So that also was something we had an indirect role to play in because the lady who wrote the book, Ms. Neelam Kumar, is our author as well. So I think there are various ways and means, to collaborate, because if it's good literature, then you support it. It doesn't have to be my literature or your literature. If you actually love literature, then you will come together for the love of it. But what I wanted to add to it was, on a lighter note, of course, you were talking about how OTT has helped people learn English. I think as far as Hindi web series are concerned, OTT has really helped people learn a lot of Hindi profanities. because I think that is a mandatory thing. I know a lot of people because I was there for 6 years, and they actually ask you, to add a few dialogues on, such lines. But just to make one final point on this, when Rituji was talking about how she's connected terms, a very interesting anecdote came to my mind, which I wanted to share with all of you. So I'm doing a book with the lyricist Samir Anjan, and that book is supposed to release in a few months' time. So when we were working with him, he was telling us an anecdote about, and I'll share that with you. So basically, he was signed up for Dhoom, and he was to write the songs. So one day he went to, the Yashraj studio, and he saw the music director Preetham and the director Sanjay Gadvi standing over there a little downcast. So he went up to them and he asked that, what's happened, So they said that, we have created a tune. We've created a tune. And we presented it to Aditya Chopra. So he was a little stupefied by that. He said, how have you presented it? Because I haven't written the lyrics for it. So Preetham said that, yes, I basically used Leela as a dummy word. And I presented it to Aditya Chopra. So what he did was he used Main teri hu, main teri Leela. That is what he used. So when Aditya Chopra heard it, he said, this is rubbish. Okay, Leela is very 80s. I am making a young hip movie about bikers in today's generation. How can you have anything like this? Rejected. So when Samir ji heard tune, he said that, the tune has some merit. Anyhow, let's see what I can do. So he went back and he was thinking that what if this movie became a hit? What if the movie became a hit? What would the press say? that dhoom ne machai dhoom, something on those lines. The moment he said that, he said he turned his car, entered, went to Aditya Chopra's room, and he said dhoom machale, dhoom, and the song was selected. So if not for the power of words, that tune and that song would be lost forever. And we've had 3 dhooms after that. Although I keep on joking with Samirji, as I tell him that, Preetham was also doing pretty much the same thing as you, because he was only inserting the words, because tune to kisi aur ki thi uspe.
Yeah, that's a good story. That's a good informative story on how creativity works and why you should not be ashamed about your creativity and why you should be presenting it at the right time to the right people. Rituji, there's also a chapter on grief in your book. What is the motivation behind that? I hope I'm not sounding very personal.
Grief, actually, that was the time when I started writing it. It was, I had lost my father and I was also going through it. And I was reading how other people cope with it. And there are stories of every, when Sudha Chandran lost her father, so those stories are there. But then grief is associated with everyone. As in Buddhism, it is said that any moment can be our last moment. And we don't have to look at the past or future. We just have to live in the moment. And then you will see how there is, and it's not only from the newspaper. So many books, memoirs which I read, they had those stories. The story of Muzaffar Ali when he lost his father, that is there. And one story which has come out very written down very well is Hema Malini ji, when she lost her father, it was really a very sudden thing for her, and how she coped with it. So those stories, I can't say anything can prepare anybody for any misfortune, the loss of a loved one, but it really shows the way to it. And then life is, we all know, we all are immortal. Sorry, immortal.
Right. All right. Well, it's comprehensive and it's profound. You have covered the fun stuff as well as you have covered the stuff which all of us ruminate over, for the lack of a better word.
This chapter, many of the chapters, they look like essays. This seems like a story woven together.
Right. Shubhani, we're almost towards the end of our discussion. This is the last question. I'm going to be asking each one of you one more question each. You speak amazingly, you're very articulate, but you still sing in Hindi. There are a lot of people, who want to sing in English, but are not able to. There's this bridge that is often not crossed by some of the singers and artists. Do you think that books like these will actually serve as propellants to bridging that gap between traditions? A.R. Rahman won the Oscar for Jai Ho. Will there be a time when somebody from India, will win, songs, Oscars for their music and their lyrics, which are in English as well?
Yeah, Vineet, see, it's also about the exposure that you've had, the kind of the music that you've grown up on. So when you're very, very young, as a child, I was exposed to listening to a lot of English music because my father's no more, but he was from the army. So he was very fond of, English music and rock and roll and jazz. And my mother, she's a musician herself. She's an educationist, but she is a classically trained singer. So she taught me Indian classical, but she's also very inclined towards jazz. So I think my growing years were listening to jazz and also listening to my mother doing riyaz. And also then going on to getting trained by her and then by my other gurus. So I think the exposure matters a lot. And also when, as you said, that if Rahman sir can win an Oscar for Jai Ho, why can't we win? Why can't an India win an English song Grammy? Right? That's what. So I think yes, we are veering towards that. we are having books like this, English, which actually, I think it's a mashup, right? I would call it a mashup. It's a mashup of English and Hindi, and that is what is really needed. So I think the world should also understand that music really has no language otherwise. I mean, music is very transcendental that way. So if the music is good, the melody is good, the content is good, whatever language it might be. So to me, in music, I think it could be any language. It could be French, it could be Punjabi, Urdu, Pakistan, I mean anything, Bengali. So the whole idea that I'm coming to is, with this book, we are trying to bridge the gap between languages. And here we're just trying to bridge the gap between English and Hindi. It's so simple. And I think we can do that. And with this kind of a book, when people start reading it, I think everyone will start resonating with it.
Absolutely, you got it right. So there is a aspirational middle class in our country of 300 million people who are steadily climbing that ladder, where they converse in English, they also think in English. They say that if you think in a particular language, that's the language that you express yourself in the best. Fortunately, in India, we speak multiple languages. You speak Hindi and English, I speak Hindi and English. But there are countries where only one language is spoken, they don't have a second language. Do you think that's an advantage for Indians when it comes to climbing that ladder of soaring higher in terms of creativity as well as the literary space? A lot of the work that you do gets represented by Netflix as well. There are Hindi movies made out of English books, right? So how is this book also going to lend some credence to what this audience is looking for?
Thanks. I think that's the beauty that the Indian diaspora has, that we can speak and write a multitude of languages. And I think surely what we're doing is that we are bringing those languages into the mainstream. So when I say mainstream, it's to the English reader per se, right? And I spoke about the translations that are happening. But what that also does is that it also has financial implications in a positive manner for the author, because if you've written something in a regional language and you sell the English language rights, so then you've got the translation rights. So and it can be sold not just in English but in other languages as well. So I always keep on saying on a lighter note that the first person in this trade was the great sage Valmiki ji, because he wrote the book in a particular language. Then Tulsidas ji converted it, so there went the translation rights. Then Ramanand Sagar made a show on it, so there went the AV rights. So that's how. So it's been happening since time immemorial, so to say. But I think it's a great time to be writing this and to be on the ball, because what happens is that a lot of literature that wasn't accessible to people now through various mediums is now accessible. So you've got translators in the trade, you've got people who would be willing to learn those languages and bring it out. So we won a Booker recently for a book that was originally written in Hindi, right? So what that shows us is the fact that there is no dearth of quality as far as Indian authors are concerned. We do not really need someone sitting abroad to certify that the book is worthy of winning a Booker. The moment the book was written, it was worthy of winning a prize. It's only when those people read it that they realized that this is worthy. So the talent as far as our country is concerned is there with every language. So I think the moment we start believing in ourselves, taking pride in our language and bringing it out within our country in itself, the scope is endless, absolutely endless.
Absolutely, you're quite right. Well, this is the last question. We've finished most of the queries that we had for our panelists. Rituji, when you wrote this book, what did you have in mind? Did you keep the target audience in mind? Did you keep your fulfillment, gratification as an author in mind? Did you keep a sense of educating people through a very unique channel in mind? What was the motivation behind, and when can we see the sequel?
As I have already shared,
If there are idioms left, because it's very voluminous now.
it was nothing
You
like
can move
I
to
was-
Hollywood after that if you...
I never wanted to be an author. It was never in my mind. The first chapter says it's a unique hobby. So I was very fond of reading these proverbs because they give us so much of practical knowledge to deal with life. I wanted, you see, there are a lot of quotes also. So much of work has been done because I wanted one book which students can pick up, because literature they have the book, but for language training, for creative writing, what to read at the last moment. I have covered almost all subjects from sports, almost all subjects have been covered, and quotations also. Nobody will pick up just the book of quotations. So they have all been, with every paragraph there are quotations, and a lot of brainstorming again has been done to write down the quotes before it. And in the unique, the first chapter, which is a unique hobby, this is my hobby, and I don't think, Alec Padamsi, he also had a hobby of collecting idiom, but he has also not, and his aim was also to combine whatever ads he made, to combine education with entertainment. This I have taken, this theme is there, but I don't see anybody who has this much of passion for idioms and all to write it down in this manner. Like I have quoted in that first example, when you say somebody, those officers, in various dictionary I have given the example, they locked horns. The students will not absorb it. But when I quote this example from the movie Three Idiots, the dean of the university locked horns with Amir Khan, this will in your mind forever. This was my purpose. And it's not for students. Proverbs and all are liked by everyone. That is the thing. And there are one thing which has not been spoken. There are illustrations also. I wanted it to be a very well illustrated book with every text. I wanted to have the illustration, but it was not possible because in every chapter you see there are so many stories. And there is a way to read it. You can first read it and then go back to the idioms, or you can first read I recommend you read the chapter and then go to it, and then it will be more interesting than the game of Scrabble. That's why I have written down, check your IQ, that is idiom quotient. So how illustration, there also a lot of brainstorming has been done. Very close friend, she's a creative director, she has done it. Then one person, Mr. Spurge, he's from Delhi College of Arts. He has helped me in making the illustrations. So I'll just ask one question, like, do you remember in which school was converted into set for the movie Rang De Basanti? Can anybody answer?
Modern school.
Yes, modern school. So how this, and then there is one, I'm talking about the illustration. There is written a modern school also in that picture. How well it has been explained. And I'll invite my son Sushant Bhagat, who is from modern school, and Vanya Arya. She'll also explain how the pictures have been illustrated in it. Then there is one picture, the entire picture is of Sanjana Sanghi. She is eating golgappas and it makes you feel tempted, and time is also coming. Everybody must be hungry also. And then it is written down at a stone's throw, because modern school is at a stone's throw from Bengali market where golgappas are there. So even for the illustration, please pay attention. And it is at a stone's throw from Lalit Hotel also. Vanya is an astrologer and a numerologist. She will speak about the chapter Luck and Opportunity, and Sushant will explain obviously his own school.
Basically, before she started writing the book, she consulted her. And only after that she wrote it.
My life. But she's very close to me now.
Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to each one of you. Ritu ji is very close to my heart and soul. She is like just next to my elder sister. I really congratulate her on the launch of this book. I have seen her working day and night for this book, and the willpower and the passion she carries, and the hard work that she has done. I have seen her from last so many nights. She has not slept just because of this book. So we will talk about the illustrations that have been mentioned in this book. So I may not be able to show you, but this is on this page of illustrations. So I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it, by Thomas Jefferson. Here, Alaya F., daughter of Pooja Bedi, where in this illustration, she's wearing her grandmother's ring. In every movie she is wearing this ring, and she hardly removes this ring because she thinks this ring is the lucky charm. So I'm also a numerologist and astrologer with Aaj Tak and Z News. So I just wanted to explain, yes, luck matters a lot, stars matters a lot, lucky charm matters a lot, but to an extent. But there is no substitute to hard work. We have to be perfectionists, we have to work hard irrespective of anything we wear, we do. Yes, our stars do matter a lot. On the other illustration where Alaya F. is having her black cat, where so many people say that it's an adverse fortune, but what about many successful people who are having black cat as their pet? What you will say about them? So by these illustrations you will be able to correlate and connect the dots, and how gracefully Rituji has written in her book. Each and every word and chapter is worth reading it. So I give her my best wishes for this book. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone. So firstly, she is my mom, and I'm very proud that she wrote this book. But she has been my teacher first and foremost. In school, I might not have performed well in maths or something like that, but English was always at par. So I've seen this book actually conceptualized. I think she conceptualized this book way back when she started teaching me, because in every English exam she used to make sure I write an idiom, I start with a quotation. So it has been so far. So I've seen it conceptualized and being on paper today. I'm so proud, and so proud of you, Mom. But yeah, so when she started, she told me the concept, I was really mesmerized, and I wanted to chip in, of course. So, and ironically, I think this was 2020 when we were having this discussion about this whole book and everything. And my school, I'm from modern school, Barakamba Road. My school completed 100 years back in 2020, and we wanted to give some element to that. So the illustration number one, which Mom, she disclosed nothing, I had to say this, but recording Rang De Basanti happened in my school, the climax where they are in the radio station and all. So that illustration is one that illustrates that book, and also it was about facing your demons, and I think it's very apt for that book. Secondly, being from modern, I passed out in 2012, sorry. So now what the world has been so Instagrammable, so I'm not sure. But back in the day, Khan Market and every place was very, you could see students from modern, DPS, Columbus to say, everyone was in Khan Market. So that was the idiom we used for that illustration, that it is at a stone's throw. But yeah, that was all, and I wish you all the best. So
thank you, Rituji, Suhail and Shivani, for having this very indulgent, incisive, intellectual conversation on a brilliant concept. Thank you so much. A big round of applause once again for the audience.
In a very engaging way, and of course to the audience for patiently listening to us.
Does anyone have any questions?
I just
All right.
thought of one.
Go ahead. Can somebody please pass the mic on to her?
I'll be loud so that it's just faster. Did you think of any age group for the book when you were working on it?
Actually, I have mostly taught the students from 9 to 12 standard, so of course they were always in my mind, but I have shared it's for everyone. In fact, I have written it down. If William Shakespeare, my favorite author, had not written down the play As You Like It, I would have named it As You Like It. It's for everyone.
Anyone else?
If I could throw a spoke in the wheel, because it's a dramatic book. The title is English, and it would be a good idea to translate it, because there are so many proverbs and idioms in our Indian languages, and there are, I'm in a language person, so I have seen the similarity and the thought, translation is very, very different. It's not like you cannot translate it literally. And beautifully, it's not coming in my mind, but lots of proverbs, they are similar in meaning. So, I'm just throwing an idea, because you might have a sequel and they could go in that direction. I'm just thinking, it excites me to think that way. What do you have to say? Ritu.
Please say it again.
Oh, I said like I wanted to throw a spoken domain because Indian languages have a lot of proverbs and expressions. So did you think about any equivalent?
Yes, definitely. That we are that's our native language. So of course, first thing will come that only.
By the way, I am Nandita and I run an NGO. It's called Agricultural Education Foundation. Have written a small book, The Skill Set. So it's there in.
How nice. Question coming from an author.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely Hindi idioms and proverbs. Of course, how can one forget about?
Yeah, we need it actually.
Yeah, so that when someone says दांत खट्टे हैं, it doesn't mean आपके टूथपेस्ट में नमक है. Eat it somewhere.
Anybody else? Questions, please? Alright, that means this session was brilliant because we left everyone speechless.
Or they're waiting for high tea.
Alright, so give me a break for high tea. Thank you everyone.
Thank you very much. All the best.
He's an art director and art critical. So please give him a big round of applause for receiving this. All right. एक और जोरदार तालियां संदीप जी के लिए.
मैं बहुत खुश हूँ आज मेरा इवेंट इंडिया इंटरनेशनल सेंटर के मल्टीपर्पज़ हॉल में हुआ है एंड माय बुक इज़ इंग्लिश it is I have tried not tried I have really taught English through Bollywood and it's a very novel concept, very innovative, very original idea too. Nobody has done it before. In fact, for me also, there were no dots to be connected. There are stories on almost all the subjects. They all have been taught through idioms, phrases and proverbs. And like for example, if you have the chapter Grief, there are stories from the life of Hema Malini ji, the life of Muzaffar Ali. Then there is one chapter which will interest everyone, that is education. And in education, almost all the movies which deal with education have been dealt with the problems of bullying, so many other problems, ragging, they have been introduced in it. There is sports chapter which even the students, if they'll pick it up just one day before their exam, they would be able to fetch good marks in their exams.
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम सुहेल माथुर है. मैं एक ऑथर हूँ और द बुक बेकर्स लिटरेरी एजेंसी का को-फाउंडर हूँ, जिसने अभी तक 1200 से ज़्यादा किताबें प्रकाशित करने में लेखकों की मदद की. और आज का जो विषय था वो भी एक किताब का लॉन्च था और एक बहुत ही यूनिक किताब जिसे मैं कहूँगा रितु जी ने लिखी है, इंग्लिश. तो अगर आप देखेंगे इसमें इंग्लिश और हिंदी दोनों का एक श्रेष्ठ मिश्रण है और बहुत अनोखे और अनूठे तरीके से यहाँ पर इन्होंने अपनी बात रखी है, जहाँ पर इन्होंने फिल्मों के माध्यम से या सिनेमा के माध्यम से भाषा का उचित प्रयोग कैसे किया जाता है वो सिखाया. सो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये बहुत ही एक नई सोच है और काबिल तारीफ़ है और मेरी सब लोगों से यही विनती रहेगी कि आप इस किताब को पढ़ें, क्योंकि एक ऐसी किताब है जिसको पढ़ के आपको मनोरंजन भी मिलेगा और नॉलेज भी मिलेगी.
नमस्कार, मैं हूँ सिंगर, बॉलीवुड सिंगर, कंपोजर, लाइव परफॉर्मर शिबानी कश्यप और आज मैं यहाँ पे दिल्ली आई हूँ एक बहुत ही खास फंक्शन के लिए. एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग बुक लॉन्च हुई है, यूनिक आई वुड से, बड़ी जिसको कहते हैं जुदा या फिर अजीबोगरीब, और बहुत ही अमेजिंग बुक लॉन्च हुई है जिसका नाम है इंग्लिश. रितु भगत जी जो इनकी ऑथर हैं, बहुत ही डायनामिक पर्सनालिटी है। उन्होंने ये जो बुक लिखी है ये सबको इंग्लिश सिखाने का एक माध्यम बनाया है थ्रू बॉलीवुड सिनेमा के एनेक्डोट्स, बॉलीवुड सिनेमा के जो भी कुछ ऐसे किस्से हैं या कहानियाँ हैं, तो उनके थ्रू इडियम्स और फ्रेजेस को लेके, ताकि लोगों को जो इंग्लिश इडियम्स हैं वो ज़्यादा सरलता से समझ में आ जाए। तो मुझे ये किताब बहुत अच्छी लगी है। मैंने पढ़नी शुरू की है, स्पेशली जो चैप्टर है जो म्यूज़िक एंड डांस पर बेस्ड है, क्योंकि मैं खुद एक म्यूजिशियन हूँ। तो जैसे म्यूज़िक और डांस बॉलीवुड फिल्म्स में एक बहुत अहम हिस्सा होता है उनको प्रमोट करने का और इमोशंस को एम्पलीफाई करने का, और मैं तो खुद ही म्यूजिशियन हूँ, तो मुझे लगता है कि हम सब म्यूज़िक के साथ एक कॉर्ड स्ट्राइक होती है। जब भी हम गाना शुरू करते हैं या डांस शुरू करते हैं तो लोग एकदम से क्या कहते हैं उसको, मधोश हो जाते हैं। तो ऐसे ऐसे उन्होंने कुछ ऐसे किस्से बताए हैं जिससे लोगों को ये इंग्लिश के इडियम्स बहुत आसानी से और बहुत ही रिलेटेबिलिटी से समझ में आएंगे। तो आज मज़ा आया, बहुत सारे अच्छे और हमारे को पैनलिस्ट भी थे, और रितु भगत जी खुद थी, और उनकी बहुत जितने भी फ्रेंड्स एंड फैमिली और जितने भी दिल्ली के खास लोग हैं, कुछ NGO चलाते हैं, कुछ लॉयर्स हैं, कुछ NGO, कुछ खुद भी ऑथर्स हैं, क्रिएटिव लोग हैं, आर्टिस्ट लोग हैं। बड़ा मज़ा आया सबसे मिलके, रूबरू होके, और एक बार फिर मैं अपने होम टाउन, अपने जन्मस्थल दिल्ली में वापस आई और मज़ा आया।
मैं काजी मोहम्मद रागिब, आर्ट डायरेक्टर और आर्ट क्रिटिक हूँ, और अभी नेशनल हेल्थ में वर्क कर रहा हूँ, और एक अपनी आर्ट गैलरी भी चलाता हूँ, आर्टिस्ट को प्रमोट कर रहा हूँ पिछले 35 ईयर्स से। और दूरदर्शन में मेरा 7 ईयर आई वॉज एंकर, तो मैं दूरदर्शन में आर्ट के प्रोग्राम एंकर करता था, तो मेरा आर्ट से काफ़ी रिलेशन है। इस किताब के बारे में जो इंग्लिश जो किताब है, इसमें मेरा बड़ा योगदान रहा है, क्योंकि जब ये किताब शुरू हुई सबसे पहले मेरे से उनकी बात हुई कि इस किताब को कैसे पब्लिश करें। तो पहले इनका प्लानिंग था एक प्रॉफिटेबल बुक बनाने का, लेकिन वो प्रॉफिटेबल बुक आपको मालूम है, आप भी जर्नलिस्ट हैं, बहुत महंगा प्रोजेक्ट होता है, तो फिर उसमें डिस्कशन हुआ कि बुक में कन्वर्ट करते हैं। प्रॉफिटेबल बुक तो पूरे आर्ट पेपर पे छपती है, उसके पेजेस अलग होते हैं, क्वालिटी अलग होती है। तो उन्होंने फिर इस जो इडियम्स वाला जो कंसेप्ट है, एक आइडिया बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है। अभी तक ऐसे बुक मैंने मार्केट में नहीं देखी, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी मैं भी कई 100 किताबों के लॉन्च में जा चुका हूँ, और कितने कवर डिज़ाइन, तो इसके कवर डिज़ाइन में भी बड़ी डिफिकल्टी थी कि क्या होना चाहिए कवर पे। तो ये चाहती थी मेरा फोटो हो, पब्लिशर चाहते थे नहीं हो, कभी अपने बेटे का, कभी अपने फादर का, कभी अपने, मतलब सो मेनी थिंग। तो ये कवर पे प्रोसेस में 6 मंथ चला, तो लेकिन अल्टीमेटली हुआ कि जो लैंग्वेज है, जो लेटरिंग है, उसी पे काम किया जाए, और ये बुक फिर रूपा पब्लिकेशन ने पब्लिश की, और आप देख रहे हैं आज बड़ा अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स मिला। और वानिया जी ने इनका स्पेशल इसमें योगदान है, तो मेरे ख्याल वानिया जी बताएंगे।
जी का काफ़ी अच्छी पिक्चर्स हैं पूरी बुक में, बहुत ही अच्छा सक्सेसफुल इवेंट रहा। हम रितु जी को कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट करना चाहते हैं, बहुत ही सक्सेसफुल लॉन्च पर उनकी बुक की। आई एम श्योर कि ये बुक काफ़ी लोगों को हेल्प करने वाली है, दोज हु आर विलिंग टू लर्न इंग्लिश, जो अपने जीवन में इंग्लिश सीखना चाहते हैं। मेरा नाम वानिया आर्या है, मैं एक एस्ट्रोलॉजर, लाइफ कोच और न्यूमरोलॉजिस्ट हूँ, और मैं अभी आज काजी सर के साथ इस बुक को एक्सप्लेन कर रहे हैं। बहुत ही अच्छी बुक है, बहुत रितु जी भगत जी ने बहुत मेहनत करी है, एक एक वर्ड बहुत ही ब्यूटीफुली और ग्रेसफुली लिखा है, और मैं उनको अपने बेस्ट विशेस और कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस देती हूँ उनकी आज की इस बुक लॉन्च पर। सो कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस, थैंक यू सर, संगम चैनल फॉर कवरिंग अस। थैंक यू
सर, थैंक यू वेरी नाइस।